Okay, let us start. So we were in chapter 5, Karma Yoga, action in Krishna consciousness, right? So before that, let us pay obeisance to Sri Radha Govinda. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Nananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manabhishtam Stapitam Ena Bhotale Swayam Rupa Kadam Ayyam Dadate Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavscha Shri Rupam Sagarajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vittam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadotam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakana Vittamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dino Bandho Jagatpate गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसूते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छा कल्पतरु अभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धु अवेव च पतितां नां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णव्यो नमो नमः नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमति भक्ति वेदांत स्वामीति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चादेशतारिणे जयो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा. Thank you. Shall we continue? So we were just this overview. It started off with Arjuna's query. He wanted to renounce. He thought because we are doing the work activity, we are getting into reactions. Why at all do that? Instead, why not renounce and take up sannyas? Then Krishna is telling that Nishkama Karma Yoga is easier than renouncing work. Because while doing the work, actually both are the same because they are go to the same goal, but renouncing work would be, renouncing the results is much easier, doing Nishkama Karma Yoga. Then he talked about how to perform Nishkama Karma Yoga. Now we are going to see now knowing the three doers and how to liberate. So actually the Lord is giving us steps leading to a life of liberation, freedom and tranquility. So all beings constantly, we make plans for the future. See, it's not that we don't act. We always have been, there are thoughts in our mind and we do activities, and repeated activities will form a habit and they form a character. So that's how we are determining our destiny. Our nature is something like that. And so how, if you can focus on the thoughts, then slowly you can change your habits. You can change your actions, then habits, and slowly you can change your destiny also. So this is what we are trying to change our consciousness. So here in this chapter is giving us, there are steps which can lead you to entanglement in the world or leading to life of liberation, right? So where Krishna had replied, both are equal in the sense that both are means to the same goal, that is renouncing work and nishkamaka. But he said if you work with detachment is much easier and superior because you're engaging your senses. So Prabhupada writes, in the first process, Sankhya as one has to become detached from matter. When you say you're renouncing the thing, you're trying to renounce from the matter, you're trying to get detached. And in this devotional yoga process, we are trying to attach ourselves to the work of Krishna consciousness. So actually, both processes are same, right? But superficially, one process appears to involve detachment, other process appears to involve attachment. So detachment from matter and attachment to Krishna are one and the same. One, you can see this thing. Actually, when you start attaching yourself to the work of Krishna, what happens? Automatically detachment from matter takes place. So you don't have to work together. So this we are looked at, both the same, but only one is getting. So here in this thing, what we learn is we don't need to deny our desires, neither kill them. What we need to do is only purify them. So then Krishna is telling us how to perform Nishkama Karma Yoga. That is, he identifies neither with his body nor the activities that his body performs. He is detached and he is freed from the reactions of his activities. That's how Nishkama Karma Yogi works. Okay. So difference between a person in Krishna consciousness, a person bodily conscious, that former is attached to Krishna, whereas the latter is attached to the results of his activities. So the person who is attached to Krishna and works for him only is certainly a liberated person. And he has no anxiety over the results because he is giving up all his, whether it's a failure or a success, everything he says the results belong to the Lord. So this is what we mean by attachment and detachment. Now, so far the Arjuna was asking why the work is important, and the Krishna says you have to not give up the work, but to give up the results of your work. So that because everything belongs to the Lord. So when that attitude comes into our mind, that everything belongs to Him. So what is it? We are just to do the work, keeping Krishna in the center. And also it is required for our purification of our heart. Okay, the work. And when we do for the Lord or with the consciousness that everything belongs to Him, what happens? That selfishness won't be there in our heart. It will be like a selfless work. And then all impurities will be removed. So that is why we need the work. But now he's going to give us a different perception. So what does he say here? The living being who knows that all bodily activities are automatically carried out by the modes of material nature, after those activities are sanctioned by the super soul, attains enlightenment through that knowledge. What does he mean here? Through this verse, he is giving us the relationship between the soul, the jiva, the Lord Ishvara, and the Prakriti, that is the material body, what will we have, and our relationship with the material world. So there are three doers. This gives us the perception from a different angle. He says there are three doers. In any activity, you have a living being, jiva, and you have the modes of material nature, that is your body, and you have your super soul, that's your Paramatma. Okay. So this is the mentality. What does it usually we have? Generally, the mentality when we have, whatever we do, we think that we own the things, that I have done this work. So since I have done this work, I should own the results, that doership, that I have done it. So this is the mentality, which is the strong mentality all of us have. And we think that we should enjoy the results the way we want. Okay. In fact, actually, this mentality, what does it do? It creates pride in us. And also, it makes us lazy because this is what we have. And ownership. That is, this is doership. I have done it and the result is mine. So I should enjoy it. This is the mentality generally we have. But now Krishna is telling us who is the actual doer. This is the jiva, this is the prakriti, and this is Paramatma. Okay. So what is the role of each thing? That's what's coming here. So what does it do is actually, who is the doer? Actually, the jiva will desire to act in a way, right? He wants to do some activity. The minute he thinks of doing it, that activity first, then it is carried out through your body, right? If I want to lift the hand, or if I think of moving somewhere else, thing is you desire first in your mind, and then that action takes place where through your body, right? Through your body, yeah, whatever facilities we have. So then that body will not act, it will act only after it receives this super soul order. That is the material nature. So he desires and the super soul verifies, that is a Paramatma, and he sanctions based on whether this jiva desires to get this desire fulfilled. And then Through the body, you do it. So after receiving the super soul's order, the material nature through the three modes, Sattva Guna, Raja Guna, Tamo, fulfills Shiva's desires. So I might like to move to from one point A to point B. And my nature would be different. I might be in the nature of a goodness or rajas, passion, or ignorance. Accordingly, the activity will be done. But the body will act only after it gets verified by the Paramatma. So you might think, is this the way it is? But the Lord is there, prevent us, and many things, the senses, it can, anytime it could be, because he is a Rishikesha, he controls the senses. So that, and because the body is a material energy, it is under the control of the Maya. It's under the control of the material world, right? It's a material energy. So it will act as per the nature of the material world. So, this is how that there are three doers. So the Lord is saying there are any activity, there will be three doers. One is Jiva desires, and then the material world, nature will act depending upon the sanction it gets from the super soul. Okay, whether it will be according to whatever, whether we deserve it or not. That's how it's arranged. Okay, it desires, super soul permits, and material nature will arrange the activity to be done. So they are modes of material. They are doing everything, but they are under the direction of the Lord. Super soul is sanctioning, but he is aloof. The Lord doesn't take responsibility for anyone's pious or impious activities. The soul desires, the Lord doesn't interfere. He sanctions these desires as the living entity deserves. Then the modes carry out. This is the knowledge in the mode of goodness. So this is the understanding we should have, that how they are thinking. If you understand this clearly, then you will be have to act without any reactions, because we understand that we take the responsibility for whatever has been outcome. Okay. You might understand how can this be. Well, suppose if I've done good deeds, then the Lord is also responsible. If I do the bad deeds, do you think the Lord will be taking the responsibility? No, because we have decided. So the response for any of the reaction or this thing, we are responsible. Just like, say, the government has got a lot of jails, to put the criminals in. Does it mean that because the government has made prison houses, that criminals are there? No. See, the criminals would have gone against the rules in the government, and they would have harmed somebody. They would have done some injustice, criminal activities. So you have a court which will the judge will try to evaluate his actions, and then he puts him away in the jail, right? But just because the judge is putting him in the jail doesn't mean that judge is responsible for his being in the jail. No, the criminal, he did a bad activity, criminal thing. So the judge had to put him in that. So that was what he directed him towards the jail, right? Same way, the government is not responsible for the prisoners, but you need to have a jail and you need to have a place where you have to put away the criminals. Same way here, the soul, he did the activity. He desired, so the activity was done. So the Lord has to punish him or award him depending on the results, isn't it? Because of the whatever the desire he has done. And you can't say the Lord has to take the responsibility for anyone's pious something. That responsibility lies in the jiva. Okay. So once you understand this, so I want to do, but I need help from God's energy. And also you need permission from the Lord. Only then that activity can take place. Okay. So what is the jiva role? Sarva karmani manasa sanyasate sukham vashi navadware puri pyodehi naiva kurva na karya. When the embodied living being controls his thing, controls his nature and mentally renounces all actions, he resides happily in the city of 9 gates, the material body, neither working nor causing work to be done. Okay, so that is when he is able to control his nature, controls his senses. Then mentally he'll be renouncing all actions. Actually, he would be doing the work, but is detached from the results. So once he is detached from the results and is doing the work, what happens? He lives happily in this body, which has got 9 gates. 9 gates are what? Your 2 eyes, 2 ears, your nostrils, your mouth, your genitals, and that thing. So they are the 9 gates in your body. Okay. So neither working nor causing work to be done, because he has renounced all the actions. So doer one is situated in the city of nice, not working or causing work to, does not create activities. Doesn't mean that it does not induce others to act, not create the fruits of actions. Happiness or distress come from identifying with the body. So once you take that mentality of ownership or the doership, then you're entangled. Okay? The embodied spirit, master of the city of his body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits. All this is enacted by the laws of nature. That is the doer too, right? Nor does Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings are worked or bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their knowledge. Okay. So what does here? So here in the purport, Prabhupada writes, anybody can all volunteer? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes, Mataji, go ahead.
The Sanskrit word Vibhu means the Supreme Lord who is full of unlimited knowledge, riches, strength, fame, beauty, and renunciation. He is always satisfied in himself, undisturbed by sinful or pious activities. He does not create a particular situation for any living entity, but the living entity, bewildered by ignorance, desires to be put into certain conditions of life, and thereby his chains of action and reaction begins. A living entity is, by superior nature, full of knowledge. Nevertheless, he is prone to be influenced by ignorance due to his limited power. The Lord is omnipotent, but the living entity is not. The Lord is Vibhu or omniscient, but the living entity is Anu or atomic. Because he is a living soul, he has the capacity to desire by his free will. Such desire is fulfilled only by the omnipotent Lord. And so, when the living entity is bewildered in his desires, the Lord allows him to fulfill those desires, but the Lord is never responsible for the actions and reactions of the particular situation which may be desired. Being in a bewildered condition, therefore, the embodied soul identifies himself with the circumstantial material body and becomes subjected to the temporary misery and happiness of life. The Lord is the constant companion of the living entity as Paramatma or the super soul, and therefore he can understand the desires of the individual soul as one can smell the flavor of a flower by being near it. Desire is a subtle form of conditioning for the living entity. The Lord fulfills his desires as he deserves. Man proposes, God disposes. The individual is not, therefore, omnipotent in fulfilling his desires. The Lord, however, can fulfill all desires, and the Lord, being neutral to everyone, does not interfere with the desires of the minute independent living entities. However, when one desires Krishna, the Lord takes special care and encourages one to desire in such a way that one can attain him and be eternally happy. The Vedic hymns therefore declare
Esha hyu eva sadhu karma karyati tam yam ebhyo lokebhyo unishyate. Esha hyu eva sadhu karma karyati yam ado ninishyate. The Lord engages the living entity in pious activities so that he may be elevated. The Lord engages him in impious activities so that he may go to hell. So this is what, because whatever we desire, he does it, and he is there within us, and he can understand. It's not that he doesn't know. He is the witness for all our activities and for all our desires. And since we have a free will, because that little bit of independence is given to us to choose. Either we can choose to be with Krishna or we can choose to be with Maya, to be away. So this mentality of doership and the ownership, so that is what it causes us bondage here. So he says, if you desire to be with Krishna, when one desires Krishna, then the Lord takes special care and encourages one to desire in such a way. So many people were asking me, how do we search for a guru? Say, you don't have to do search for a guru. You have to desire for a guru. Once you desire for him, once you want a guru who can help you in this journey, then the Lord will help you because he is there with you. No, he is the one who knows your desire, that intense desire you have because you want to be in this path. So then he will allow you, then he will allow the guru to come to you externally because he will arrange the things. That's what here is clearly telling. If you desire Krishna, then Lord takes special care and encourages one to desire in such a way that they can attain to him and be eternal happy. So here, what we learn is how to be happy internally because we cannot find happiness in the outside world. We have to be happy within our this body itself internally. And how to do it? By recognizing the presence of Paramatma in us. He is the one who is there with us all the time. He is well-wisher for us. And he want us to be happy. So if you turn towards him, then if you desire that, then he will help you with you. But if you decide to go away from him, he will say, okay, you want to go away from you, you go away. If you want to come to me, you come to me. I'll help you. So he doesn't interfere in our desires. Okay, but he will sanction it and to the extent to what we desire. If we desire to become a millionaire and we may not be deserving it, but he will give a sanction to some extent. Okay, so that's what here it is. So then, and our also the reactions of that actions or reactions for that activity, we have to bear the responsibility. Okay. So here very clearly, here Prabhupada writes that the Lord is Vibhu and we are Anu, we are small. Okay. And so we have a little bit of free will. And for all our sanctioning of our desires, only the Lord has to help us. And we also have this man proposes and God disposes here. So we come to clearly. So if we have this knowledge that whatever we do, there is a person who is facilitating it, so who is sanctioning it. Otherwise, if you are in ignorance, then you're always in bewilderness. That's what here is. The role of the soul was told in the verse 13. And in the 14, he told us is the material nature is just a facilitator and the Lord is the sanctioner. Okay. So we are bewildered because we are thinking that we are the doer, right? So when one is enlightened with this knowledge by which niceness, that is ignorance is destroyed, then this knowledge reveals everything as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. So this is the knowledge. Once you understand that this is the thing which the Lord is doing it, then what happens? You are enlightened. So we are working with this knowledge. Okay. So I think there is a nice thing to see in the pulpit. So those who have forgotten Krishna must certainly be bewildered, but those who are in Krishna consciousness are not bewildered at all because our ignorance has gone. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita, Sarvam Jnana Plavena Jnanajna Sarva Karmani Anahi Janena Sadasham. Knowledge is always highly esteemed. And what is that knowledge? Perfect knowledge is achieved when surrenders to Krishna. That is what we see going to see in 7th chapter. Bahunam Janmanam Ante Gnanaman Mam Prapatyanti. After passing through many births, when one perfect in knowledge surrenders unto Krishna or one attains Krishna consciousness, then everything is revealed to him, as everything is revealed by the sun in the daytime. So here Krishna is saying, Prabhupada writes, the living entity is bewildered in so many ways. When it says when unceremony thinks himself God, he actually falls into the last snare of ignorance. If a living entity is God, then how can he become bewildered by license? Does God become bewildered by license? If so, then license or Satan is greater than God. So real knowledge can be obtained from whom? From a person who is in perfect Krishna consciousness. So we have to seek a bona fide spiritual master. Under him, learn what Krishna consciousness is. That will drive away all our ignorance as sun drives away her darkness. Okay. So here Krishna says, Prabhupada writes, even though a person may be in full knowledge that he is not this body, but is transcendent to the body, but he may not be able to discriminate between soul and supersoul. However, he can know everything well if he takes the shelter of the perfect person. So that means we should be able to discriminate. That is, we are Anu and the Lord is Vibhu. So we are very tiny. We have got a very small amount of free will and we think. So even if you desire something, unless we get the sanction from the Lord, it cannot be executed. Okay, it will never be done. Okay, that we should always understand. However, he can know everything well if he can take the shelter of the perfect bona fide Krishna conscious spiritual master. Only that is the reason why we need to have a guru. One can know God and one's relationship God only when actually meets a representative of God. So a representative of God never claims that he is God, although he is paid all the respect ordinarily paid to God, because he has got the knowledge of God. So this is what we have to learn. One has to learn the distinction between the Lord and the living entity. So at night we see everything as one in the darkness, but in day when the sun is up, we see everything in its real identity. So identity with individuality and spiritual knowledge is what is that identity? That we are the spirit soul and not the body, and we are a part of parcel of him, and even to living here, we depend on him for everything. We are a servant to him. Okay. So that's the knowledge which we are getting it here. So this is a difference between the soul. Soul, both are eternal. Chitananda. He is blissful, but he suffers because he is covered by Maya, Jiva. Whereas the super soul is always blissful. And he is cognizant of this body because the soul knows only what this body does, whereas the Paramatma super soul, he knows everyone because he is there present in all the bodies, in all the jivas. And we are Anu, whereas he is Vibhu. We have minute independence to desire, but is dependent upon super soul to fulfill desires. But he is Swarat, the super soul, complete independence. So we should know this difference between us and the thing. We can't say that Aham Brahmasi. We can't merge into the super soul. So this is the knowledge. So once you understand this dualship and you focus, then you can get liberated. So one who is in knowledge devotionally fixes his consciousness on the super soul and remains materially egoist. So this is the Dhamasham. So this verse tells us how to connect internally and act externally. So actually, internally what we have to know, the Paramatma is there in every soul and all are souls. And in all is super soul. All are divine and in all of them there is divinity. This is the attitude of spiritual practitioner. So once you are done, you can attain liberation in the near future. Okay. So when this knowledge is used to focus on the super soul, then one can act in a transcendental way. So in this enlightenment can lead to transcendence. It is focused on the super soul. So this, if you are aware that there is a person who's witnessing all of your activities, then you will surely be careful, isn't it? Then this is what, yes, once this knowledge is used to focus on the Paramatma, then you will act in a focused manner. Okay. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavi Astini Sunichaiva Swapake Cha Panditaha Samadashin. The humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision, Samadashana, a learned and a gentle Brahmana vision, and a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. Actually, a Brahmana and a dog eater, outcast, they are of the same species, but in Krishna consciousness, they are totally different, right? Whereas cow, elephant, and dog are all animal species, but Brahmana is in the mode of goodness, whereas dog eater is the mode of ignorance. Cow is the mode of goodness. Elephant is mode of passion. Dog is a mode of ignorance. So here, Samadarshana, one who sees, he sees all of them equally because they are jiva, okay? And super soul is there in all of them. But externally they are different. Their swabhava is different, okay? That he understands. But internally they are all jiva and their super soul is there. So this is the samadarshan of a wise man. Feeling of bliss within due to development of this. External pleasure seems to be so attractive, it is difficult to overcome temptations. So one who is intelligent will understand that pleasures are short-lived and end in great distress. So when one focuses consciousness on super soul, his intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all focused. He is free from doubts because he has knowledge of the three doers. So once you understand the Paramatma who is there in all the jivas, then he will know that he is the doer. Actually, he is the one who is giving the permission and he is the one who is the witnessing our activities and he will sanction whatever the reactions we need. He sees the super soul is sanctioning but he is impartial. Sees with equal vision because he has knowledge that he is not his body and knowledge of the super soul. That is known as Vidya Vinaya Sampanni, Samadarshana. Actually, this is a Brahma Bhota Prasannatma state, when you have reached this state of understanding. What is the symptom? So now he is going to give us the symptoms of how such a self-realized person is. Those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. They are flawless, the black Brahman, and thus they are already situated in Brahman platform. Okay. A person who neither rejoices upon receiving something pleasant nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, unbewildered, and knows the signs of God, is to be understood already situated in transit. So this is what the Lord, after telling how to do Nishkama Karma Yoga, then he's giving us a different perspective about the doership and the mentality of doership and ownership. Once you understand that the Lord is the one who is, you are the one who are desiring it, and it is getting done only with the help of the Lord. The Paramatma is within us because he is the one who is sanctioning, and there's the body through the material nature, you are getting it done, fulfilled, right? And we will get fulfilled as per our desire, as per what we deserve. So, and we are responsible for the reactions, right? Whether it is pious or impious. So then, but if you understand that he is there within us and he is there within in all the jivas, then and he is the one who is sanctioning, and he is the one who is permitting, and who is the one who is thing, then we slowly we won't take ownership to the results. Then we know everything belongs to him. And we are a servant, and he is the one who is sanctioning all our desires. So once you are situated in that internally with that knowledge, then you are externally, you might be doing the activities, but you will be not attached to the actions, not to the results, because this is the consciousness you have. So that Lord explains the symptoms of such a self-realized person here. Right? Na shoshati na kakshati. Then he says, such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness for the he concentrates on the soul. So we have the best example is Haridas Thakur, who was chanting, 300,000 times during the day, 3 lakhs. So, and he was so immersed in his chanting, even when the prostitute was sent to disturb him, he was never disturbed by any of that. In fact, the prostitute got disturbed and she changed. She renounced everything and took to consciousness, Krishna consciousness, and to chanting. So, this is the such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure. Is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. Okay. An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery which are due to contact with the material sense. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight. So, what is the thing is, saying external pleasure seems to be attractive, very attractive, and it is difficult to overcome some temptations. But actually, these temptations are the source for us misery. And why? Because we have, because the contact with such pleasures have a beginning and an end. So he does not like. So here we have different, here these insects are attracted to the light. So that is the attraction to the light, whereas the deer is attracted by the music and gets trapped. His ears are there. Then you have flowers, the bees attracted by the smells, perfume by the lotus flower and gets trapped inside. So this is through the eyes is the sense, here is the ears, is the nose, and then we have the taste, the tongue. The fish gets attracted to get trapped by the bait. And elephants, how they are caught by showing the she elephant and looking at that sex, it gets trapped. So these five senses are the ones which traps them into the thing. So the wise man, for the human beings, all these senses are very strong. For the human beings, all these strong thing, and so the temptations are very strong. It's very difficult to overcome. So we have to be careful. So we have to tolerate all these urges. And it's not that today I've come to Krishna conscious, I become completely free from these urges. No. These urges will be there, these temptations will be there, these agitations will be there till the end of our life. And we have to continue to be tolerating these urges of the material sense and check the force of desire and anger. Once you have done that, you will be situated and is happy. Even in chapter 2, it says, no, you will get happiness, you will get sufferings, but you have to tolerate. One who is tolerate is eligible for liberation. Same here, he is telling us to these agitations, these temptations, we cannot avoid. It's there because we are in this material world. All these temptations will be there and all these agitations will be there. And our senses will try to get attracted to that. But we need to learn to understand that it will be there and we have to tolerate. And we should check the force of the desire and the anger. So lifelong, as long as you're in this body, you have to tolerate these surges. It is possible for one who delights in words. So that's what the Lord says. That is, you have to tolerate. So he's giving us directly the directions. He's not telling us in an indirect way. So when you look at all this, you can see how the Lord is instructing Arjuna and all is instructing us also. That he's not telling that you will be in an ideal world. No. He knows the material world will be there and you'll have temptations and you'll have these things which you'll get attracted to it. So you have to give up. You have to tolerate these urges of the material senses. It's not saying that you give up the desires. No, you can tolerate it. That means you can regulate it. You have the things you can regulate the enjoyment. You can regulate. So by not eating too much or not eating too less, or you can tolerate. So by tolerating, then you can check the force of desire and anger. Then is well, kama krodha bhavam vegam sa yukta sa sukhi naraha. Naraha is the human being. Then he is well situated and is happy in this world. So now he's telling us how to be here in happiness. And how do I have to tolerate the pushing of the senses? Until when one tolerate the urges until the death of the body. It's not that you do it in 5 minutes. When one gets the strength to tolerate the senses, by focusing his happiness, activities, and goals inward. Okay. He engages in purifying his external activities by working for the benefit of others. Then one is assured liberation. That is, when you learn to be selfless. Then when you work towards the Lord. Okay. So, so one whose happiness is within, who is active within, who rejoices within and is illumined within, is actually the perfect mystic. He is liberated in the Supreme and ultimately attains the Supreme. So by being in Krishna consciousness, you can. So the knowledge that Krishna is the fountain of everything, then when he acts in that spirit, he acts for everyone. The suffering for the thing is forgetfulness. Suffering due to forgetfulness of Krishna as the supreme enjoyer, the supreme proprietor, and the supreme friend. Because we have forgotten the Lord, because we have forgotten the presence of the Lord within us, what happens? We are unhappy. We are suffering. That's what is told here. So those who are free from anger and all material desires, who are self-realized, self-disciplined, constantly endeavoring for perfection, are assured of liberation in the Supreme, in the very future. Then here goes on talking about in these two verses about practice of Ashtanga, but it gives the same liberation, but that we will talk about it in the next chapter. Where there's Ashtanga Yoga, what they do is you shut all, that is a yogic, all external sense objects, keeping eyes, vision concentrated between two eyebrows, inward, and that is do pranayama, controlling mind, senses, intelligence. This is how we think. So this is, we'll discuss this more in tomorrow in the next chapter. Finally, he concludes, a person is full conscious of Krishna attains liberation from the pangs of material miseries. How? Bhoktaram Egna Tapasam Sarva Loka Maheshwaram Suhurdam Sarva Bhutanam Natvamam Shanti. Bhoktaram Egna Tapasam. The sages knowing me as the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices. Bhoktaram is enjoyer. Okay? And Egna Tapasam is the purpose of all sacrifice and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods. Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. Suhardam Sarva Bhutanam. He is the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities. Once you have understood that he is the enjoyer and he is the overlord, supreme Maheshwar of all planets and demigods, and he is the well-wisher of us, then what happens? Then you attain peace from the banks of material miseries. This is a beautiful verse, and finally he concludes the Chati. I think I need a volunteer to read this. It's a very nice puppet. The Conditional Soul. Hare Krishna. Anyone can come forward.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji, go ahead.
The conditioned souls within the clutches of the illusory energy are all anxious to attain peace in the material world, but they do not know the formula for peace, which is explained in this part of the Bhagavad Gita. The greatest peace formula is simply this: Lord Krishna is the beneficiary in all human activities. Men should offer everything to the transcendental service of the Lord because he is the greater proprietor of all planets and the demigods thereon. No one is greater than he. He is greater than the greatest of the demigods, Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. In the Vedas, the Supreme Lord is defined as
Tam Ishwaranam Paramam Maheshwaram.
under the spell of the illusion, living entities are trying to be lords of all they survey, but actually they are dominated by the material energy of the Lord. The Lord is the master of the material nature, and the conditioned souls are under the stringent rules of the material nature. Unless one understands these bare facts, it is not possible to achieve peace in the world, either individually or collectively. This is the sense of Krishna consciousness. Lord Krishna is the supreme predominator, and all living entities, including the great demigods, are his subordinates. One can attain perfect peace only in complete Krishna consciousness. The fifth chapter is practical explanation of Krishna consciousness, generally known as Karma Yoga. The question of mental speculation as to how Karma Yoga can give liberation is answered herewith. To work in Krishna consciousness is to work with the complete knowledge of the Lord as the predominator. Such work is not different from transcendental knowledge. Direct Krishna consciousness is Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga is the path leading to Bhakti Yoga. Krishna consciousness means to work in full knowledge of one's relationship with the Supreme Absolute, and the perfection of this consciousness is full knowledge of Krishna, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A pure soul is the eternal servant of God A pure soul is the eternal servant of God as his fragment, part and parcel. He comes into contact with Maya desire to lord due to the desire to lord it over Maya, and that that is the cause of his many sufferings. As long as he is in contact with matter, he has to execute work in terms of material necessities. Krishna consciousness, however, brings one into spiritual life, even while one is within the jurisdiction of matter. For it is an arousing of spiritual existence by practice in the material world. The more one is advanced, the more he is freed from the clutches of matter. The Lord is not partial towards anyone. Everything depends on one's practical performance of duties in Krishna consciousness, which helps one control the senses in every aspect and conquer the influence of desire and anger. And one who stands fast in Krishna consciousness, controlling the above mentioned passions, remains factual in the transcendental stage or Brahma Nirvana. The Eightfold Yoga mysticism is automatically practiced in Krishna consciousness because of the ultimate purpose is served. There is a gradual process of elevation in the practice of yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dhyana, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. But these only preface perfection by devotional service, which alone can forward peace to the human being. It is the highest perfection of life.
So this yama, this is the 8 stages in Ashtanga Yoga, okay, which we'll see tomorrow. But what he's saying is that unless it gets perfected only by devotional service. So here very clearly says that you need to have work. That is, as long as he is in contact with the matter, he has to execute work in terms of material necessities. But Krishna consciousness brings one to spiritual life, even while he is in the jurisdiction of matter, because it is arousing spiritual existence by practice in the. So what we are doing now, see, you can just do mechanically chant Hare Krishna Mahamatra, but if you chant with this knowledge that this is a devotional activity we are doing, and we are doing it for the Lord. You're spending that 15 minutes or 1 hour for the Lord, and you're working on that. So that means you're trying to clear your another. So you're trying to be arouse the spiritual existence. So this is what it happens. Okay. So you need the work, but you don't need to have that mentality of doership or ownership, because of a desire to own it. That's why we are in this material, because of that. So once you slowly come out, how do you come out of these clutches? And so we are under the control of Maya, under the control of the material energy. So, but pure soul is always an eternal servant of the Lord. Since he comes into contact with Maya due to the desire to lord it over, because we want to own it. And that is the cause of our many sufferings. So here, by taking to Krishna consciousness, what happens? We slowly spiritualize. Okay. That's what here clearly says, that this is a peace formula. Bhoktaram igna tapasam sarva loka maheshwaram suhardam sarva bhutanam natva mam sati. Bhoktaram is the supreme enjoyer. Maheshwaram is the supreme owner. And Suhardam is the best friend of all. So what is this chapter is telling us? It points us to liberation through Nishkama Karma Yoga. So when you understand Krishna and chant, then you will get more results, because you're doing through spiritual energy of Krishna. Otherwise, just chanting is in material energy. So once you understand that Krishna is the enjoyer, he is the supreme owner, and he's the best friend. So if you work in Krishna consciousness, doing caused by spiritual nature of Krishna, so there's no reaction. Equality refers to internally and not to external. So when we look at all the jivas, doesn't mean that all are equal, but internally they are equal. Externally, they have their own nature. The dog has got his own nature, dog eater is another nature, modes of nature, cow, elephant, and all that. So equality samadashanam is that you see jiva in super soul in all. Okay, with this we are coming to the end of this chapter. So this is what we saw. Summary: Nishkama Karma Yoga is easier than renouncing. That means we are renouncing the results and not trying to think. Just be like a lotus leaf. That's how we have to do Nishkama Karma Yoga. And how to, and also he gives us another perspective, the knowledge about the three doers. So who are the three doers? We are the Jiva. That's a relationship between the Jiva, Ishvara, the Paramatma, and the Prakriti. That is the material body we have. So knowing that three doers. So because we are desired, we need to get, if to fulfill our desires, we need the energy of the Lord. We need the permission from the Lord, and then it gets enacted through the material senses. So it's telling us to focus on the Paramatma. Paramatma is there within us. And if you turn towards him, towards Krishna, then he'll help you to be on this path. If you want to be away from Krishna, he'll also tell you, okay, be away from Krishna. But he's there and he can understand your desire, because it's like the smelling of the flower. The minute you smell, get the thing, you know the presence of the flower, isn't it? Through his scent. Same way, because he's there within us, he can understand our desires. And then, how does the symptoms of a person who is in this knowledge, Samadarshana, he said, he talked about those symptoms and how material, the temptations are there, will be there throughout our life, and we should learn to tolerate those urges and to focus on the Lord. Okay. And then he talked about Ashtanga Yoga, just mentioned it, because you have those 8 process, which we'll discuss in detail. Because he spent the whole chapter on 6 is completely on Ashtanga Yoga. Because no, the people will, because we have seen people meditating, going to forest, and how they meditate, how they perfect the thing. So he spends the whole thing there and then tells us what it's all about. Okay, we'll see that tomorrow. And then he ends up by saying, he is the Bhoktaram, he is the supreme enjoyer, supreme owner, and the best friend of all. So we'll end with this. So Krishna is giving us steps leading to a life of liberation, freedom, and tranquility. Panchakalpatarabhyascha